All right, thank you. Welcome, everyone. Super excited to have you with us today to talk about the $1 million CreatorCon challenge and an exciting demo of Kingston building a lucrative app for the ServiceNow Store. So we are going to jump right in. Just a couple of very quick introductions. My name is Martin Barkley. I take care of product marketing for the ServiceNow App Store and our ISV partners. And Chuck, why don't you give the folks a brief intro?
Yeah, hi, my name is Chuck Tomasi from ServiceNow. Been with the company for about coming up on 8 years and a customer for a couple of years before that, mainly focused in platform, custom applications, and integrations.
Awesome. Okay, so let's kick this off. We have a basic three-part agenda. I'm going to, as quickly as I can, cover the actual challenge itself, the opportunity available to you to launch and accelerate your startup to market with seed funding and other really cool stuff. I'm going to talk a little bit about the entry process and the eligibility so that everybody's 100% clear on that. I'm going to show you just some pictures of last year's finale at Knowledge to show you kind of the way it comes to life and the excitement that happens on stage and on the show floor. And then I'm going to hand it over to Chuck, who's going to take you through Kingston. He's going to show you how to build a safety issue management application. And then we're going to publish that to the store, and then we'll take questions. So with that, let's go to the next slide. So what is this CreatorCon challenge that you speak of, Martin? Well, let's go through kind of the who, what, why, how, and when of it, right? And try to summarize in a neat nutshell for you what exactly this is. So first off, it's a developer competition. It's a $1 million developer competition, and it's specifically targeted at early stage product startups. So what does that mean? It means companies that are building prepackaged off-the-shelf applications on the Now platform for distribution to a broad set of customers. And so these are applications that are mostly distributed through our ServiceNow Store. We also have the OEM program now, but I don't want to overcomplicate things at this point. For all intents and purposes, these applications are distributed through our ServiceNow Store, which is our global distribution and monetization channel that reaches every ServiceNow customer on the planet. You do not have to be a ServiceNow partner. You do not have to have an app on the store to enter the CreatorCon challenge. We, in our scenario today, are playing the role of a startup that is a partner and is publishing an app to the store because winning apps on the CreatorCon challenge must be published to the store within a quarter or 3 months following Knowledge 18. That is the way that you get to market faster and start making money. So we want to show you that. Additionally, if you are one of the 3 winners, you are automatically made a silver tier, which is an upper tier technology partner. So you become a partner as part of the prize pool. So again, you do not have to be a partner. You do not have to have an app on the store, but you can. So it's really open to any startup that is focused on product and is early stage, has not taken an equity round and doesn't have an evaluation yet. So that's who this is for. What is it? Again, it's a competition to build new native apps on the Now platform. And it's a $1 million total purse. That's split into 2 pieces, $500,000 in seed funding, cash investment from ServiceNow Ventures, and another $500,000 in sales and marketing prizes. The sales and marketing prizes are significant. They include free trips for 2 people from up to 10 startups each, so up to 20 people get full, airfare, hotel. They get full Knowledge 18 passes, which I believe are about $2K each. And then most importantly, you get a chance to demo your app to the 20,000 ServiceNow customers and prospects that will be at Knowledge 18 live in the developer hub on the show floor. And we'll show you what that looked like last year. The really cool part of this is the 3 finalists that are selected will go head to head in a Shark Tank style pitch off on Thursday's general session. So the room is going to be full I'm expecting, I don't have specifics on this, but I'm expecting it to be double what it was last year, which is on the order of 5,000 people. And you're going to be pitching to a esteemed panel of judges, including the one and only Fred Luddy, who is this founder of ServiceNow. So it's pretty awesome. And then lastly, the App Launch Accelerator Kit, including that silver tier of Technology Partner Program membership. You're going to get into ServiceNow press release. We're going to produce a ServiceNow sales enablement video and communication so that sales knows all about you. We're going to do a customer webinar so that customers know all about you. We're going to put a hero banner on the store for you and other stuff to get you known and to get you notoriety out there in the marketplace to accelerate the adoption of your app. We have a large or massive available market at ServiceNow. We are the fastest growing enterprise SaaS company, over $1 billion, and we'll probably be closer to 2 billion this year. And that includes well over 40% now of the Forbes Global 2000. So we have a large and rapidly growing addressable market for you to address through the ServiceNow Store. How do you enter? www.servicenow.com/CreatorCon Challenge is the contest landing page where you can enter. I'm going to show you that, and you must enter by February 15th of this year by 8 p.m. Pacific time. Next slide, please. So I talked about how to enter. You can go to that landing page and you'll see a big red enter button, and it will take you directly to the first form of the entry, which I'll show you next. But I also wanted you to show this important page. This is our developer portal, and this is the developer dashboard. You can also enter and update your entry at any time up to the entry deadline by clicking on the Manage Main Menu Nav CreatorCon Challenge entry. So that's super important. You can enter right from there, or you can go back and update your entry with additional information and materials as you move forward. So you can do this in chunks. You don't have to do it all at once, and you can do it right from the developer dashboard. Next slide, please. So in terms of the actual entry flow, let me quickly walk you through that. There's 3 parts to it. The first part is your personal and company profile. The important things to note here are that you must be an independent legal entity. This is not for personal developers. You have to start a company in order to enter, as this is an investment competition. And secondly, you can enter this information up until the deadline. So again, we have made it specifically so that the company and the website of the company is an open field that can be filled out and submitted right up until 8 p.m. on February 15th. So there's nothing blocking you from developing your app in terms of getting that company formed. You can do that in parallel up until the deadline. Next slide, please. The app profile is where you tell us about your app. Who's it for? What problems does it solve? What market are you going after? How is it different? What's your sustainable competitive advantage, et cetera, et cetera. What I wanted to point out here was that, as I said at the top, you do not have to be a partner. You do not have to be publishing or have published an app to the store. All you need to do is get a free developer instance. It is free. There is nothing in terms of cost for you to enter this competition. You, if you do not already have a personal developer instance, you can get one here, right below the form, and that will take you to the Get Instance page. Once you've done that, it will automatically take you back here, and you click the refresh button and it will populate with your PDI name. And that is the instance that you have to enter your app on. Next slide, please. Lastly, just to quickly cover off what the mandatory submission materials are. So obviously your app on your designated developer instance that I just talked about. There's 3 additional things. There's an investor deck, which is a PowerPoint presentation, and this page will be updated to show that as a mandatory material. Secondly, you have to record a video of yourself pitching to potential investors, and specifically to potential investors at ServiceNow. And thirdly, you have to have a hands-on narrated app demo video that shows the judges what your app does and why it's so great. So 3 mandatory materials. Again, those can be submitted as they become available and as you create them up until the entry deadline. Next slide, please. So here's what it looked like last year. We had about 3,000 people in the CreatorCon keynote. You can see in the top left kind of the size of the room. It was a packed house, and it was awesome. It was the first time that we did it, and it was hosted by our CTO, Alan Linewand. It was kicked off by Pat Casey. And then the winning checks were presented by Dominic Phillips, who's our VP of Corporate Finance and is in charge of ServiceNow Ventures. So it ended with the three winners, as you can see, the ceremonial checks: $250K for Factor 5 in the middle, $150K for Clear Sky on the right, and then $100K for Helpful on the left. And then at the bottom, just a couple of shots of what the demo pod looked like on the show floor. So we had a dedicated, and we will have a dedicated, pretty cool looking pod for all of the shortlist entries. And they will get to demo and drive leads and opportunities for their business on the K18 show floor. Next slide, please. Wanted to really just quickly talk about who the judges are. So we're really proud and excited to have this set of judges this year. Obviously, first and foremost, Fred Luddy. So, you know, you have the opportunity to pitch to the founder of ServiceNow. I don't know if it gets any better than that. I think the answer is no. We have Glenn Solomon, who is a managing partner at a major VC called GGB Capital. He's led investments in Splunk, Slack, and Square, and a whole slew of other kind of A-list startups. So he's going to be a judge. And then Om Malik, who's pretty famous out there for have started GigaOM and is now a partner at True Ventures. And new this year, we have BJ Lackland, who was a judge last year, who's actually going to mentor the three finalists and coach you on your pitch. And so you get to hone your business skills as well as part of this overall program. So that's a stacked lineup of judges and mentors for you as well. Next slide, please. Okay, so let me talk about the scenario, and then I'm going to hand it over to Chuck to get started with the hands-on on Kingston. So the scenario that we're going to walk you through today is we are a startup competing in the CreatorCon Challenge called Orbit Corp. We have an app called Safety First that we're building that spans multiple industry verticals and is all about safety issue management and compliance. And so Chuck is going to build that app from scratch and show you how to do it with Kingston. The customer is Halo Corp, and so it's beer brewed by angels. They are a microbrewery, or actually probably not micro anymore because they've grown so quickly. They're probably more of a, I don't know, macro brewery. They are a ServiceNow ITSM customer, and they are expanding with the power of the Now platform to also get their safety issues under control and improve the management process with this application for the Now platform. The players or the actors in this scenario, Chuck is the VP of App Dev at Orbit, and he's going to be showing you Studio, the brand new and awesome Flow Designer for no-code process automation, and then Service Portal. The end users of the application at Halo are going to be Margot, the brewmaster. She's going to be reporting safety issues. Then we're going to have Carol, who's going to function as the inspector and approve resolutions to safety issues. And then we've got Luke, who's the overall safety department manager and process owner. So that's kind of the setup. I think I got one more slide I got to go through, Chuck, so let's go to that. This is really just to give you an overview of kind of where all this stuff is happening in terms of logical, ServiceNow instances. So Chuck is going to be building the app on Orbit's partner instance. He's then going to upload that app for technical certification to the store, publisher, app repo, and portal. It's going to be certified by the ServiceNow certification team, and then it will be published to the store. And then the customers globally, in this case, Halo Corp, then procures the app, buys the app from the store, and puts it onto their instance and uses it. So that's kind of the logical layout of today. And I think that's hopefully my last, yeah, awesome, it is. So I can stop talking now, and man, I feel like I've been talking for a long time. So Chuck, away you go with the lucrative app dev demo.
Thank you very much, Martin. As Martin said, my name is Chuck Tomasi. I've been with ServiceNow for a while. And for the sake of this scenario, I am going to be the VP of Development at Orbit Corp. So hopefully I don't have to break character at all. I have been talking with Luke Wilson, the safety manager at Halo, and he said he's been tracking his safety issues via email. Very common process. I used to do something similar way back in the 90s and track them in a spreadsheet so that I could get things through to completion. And it worked well when Luke was a one-man shop, but as he's added employees like Jim and Carol and the group continues to grow, it's not working so well, especially when Luke goes on vacation and no one's watching that email inbox. So we are going to take his legacy spreadsheet information, bring it into ServiceNow. I've got a roadmap. This looks like a lot of things we're going to do, and you'll see that most of them go pretty darn quickly. We'll have them in and out of here. In fact, I'll probably do 2 or 3 before I remember to even come back to this map. But I'll start by creating the application and getting all the way through to the happy face where we do our dance at the end. So I will refer back to this just to make sure that we're still on target, on course, and can get through to this. So let's begin by first going to ServiceNow. This is my Kingston instance, and I am going to begin by going into Studio, which is our integrated development environment. This is where I keep track of all of the artifacts for my application. And I'm going to create an application called Safety. And just to avoid conflict with previous demos and trials, I'm going to put a 2 on the end of that. And this switch allows me to create a table at the same time. I've talked to Luke and I said, Luke, what do you call these things that you're getting? Do you call them cases? Do you call them incidents? He says, we just call them issues. They're safety issues. So I can use his terminology and name the table issue. It will be under the safety application. So I don't need to really say safety issue. It'll look funny when it's a safety issue. And then I use one of ServiceNow's most powerful developer features, and that is this thing where I can extend from an existing table. And I'll talk about that as I go, but it allows me to inherit a lot of the properties, attributes, and business logic that go into that task table, because these are tasks. I've been talking to Luke about the process and said, do you assign these to people? He said, yes. Is there a process you go through? Yes. Okay, that sounds like a task to me. So I'm going to extend the task table. And if I ever see a list of tasks, I want to denote the safety issues from any others. By default, it takes the first 3 letters of my table label, ISS. But I don't know about you. It's not intuitive to me. I think safety is a little more imperative. So that's all I do. It creates the application, the table, and I go into my application, back into Studio, and find that it's also created a role for the user, some basic ACLs for security, some navigation menus. All of this used to take a lot longer when we did this individually back in 2008, 2009, before there was a Studio, before there were applications. It was a lot of details. So I've got a big advantage. Let me go into the table. I'm going to first sit down at the table with Luke and say, hey, how would you run this process? What fields do you need on your form to do it effectively? One of the things I inherited from Task was the form layout, and it's a good starting point. There's nothing wrong with this. It may work for some situations, but he says, I don't know what a configuration item is, so I'll take that off. We're not doing parent-child relationships between these issues, and for now, we're not going to use work notes. So I just click X, and they're gone. But he says, what I do need is the location where the safety issue is happening. And, oh, by the way, could you move that over to that side? Absolutely. We're just doing some quick drag and drop, pragmatic form layout. He says, I also need a due date. Some people say, I need this done by Tuesday. I need this done by the end of the day, that sort of thing. And obviously, who opened this crazy thing? Who do I need to interact with to resolve this? And I'll put that right underneath assigned to. He said, do you also have a category field? And I said, no, by default, Task does not include a category field. Do you want one? He says, yeah. How would you like it represented? Well, make it a pull-down list of things on the form. I didn't quite get that where I wanted it. Let's put it on this side. We'll make it a drop-down list, which we refer to as a choice list, and give it a nice name like category, and obviously a better database table name than you category or choice 1. And I can even put in the choices. I said, well, what categories do you have? He says, we have big issues, And we have small issues. Perfect. Works for me. I do that. He also says during the process, I've got an approval to make. Do you have a state where it's in approval? And I look through the states real quick and say, no, but I can add one. So I'll add an approval, give it a state number because our states are by number, and put that into a logical order how it will appear when I look at the drop-down list. I said, is that it? Do you need anything else? He said, yeah, I actually have an inspector. Someone has to inspect to make sure this thing was resolved correctly. Task doesn't have an inspector, so I say, what kind of field is it? He said, well, I want it to be a list of the people in the system. So I'll make that a reference field, call it inspector again, and point it to the sysuser table, which is our list of system users. There's lots of user tables in here. I just found the one fastest. And finally, to make sure that we've got everything that he needs, I said, anything else? He said, yeah, sometimes the big safety issues, they turn into projects. So we'll add one more field and just a checkbox right under here, and we'll call that a project. We'll get to what we're going to do with that in just a minute. And we don't want to default it to checked. Not every new issue is a project, so default that to off. We have to explicitly say this is a project. I save the form layout, and away we go. We now have, I'll refresh this real quick, we now have a safety application with a table to put stuff. And how far did I get through the map? I've got the data model, I've done some UI layout, and now we're going to import the Excel spreadsheet. So first, let's find our safety application. There's my issue table. I bring this up, and I notice that another thing we inherited from task is the list layout, which is good place to start, but not quite exactly what I want. Let's modify the list layout. We'll take out task type and put in some of the things that Luke had asked me for, like category, or where was it? Due date was another good one. Location and inspector might also be helpful. So we can arrange those and rearrange them how we like. We now have a very nice list layout, little wide for my screen because I've enlarged the font so you can see it. He said, well, what about my legacy data? Remember that spreadsheet we had back here? This is everything we need. Apparently the safety department likes to speak in Latin, and we'll abide by that when we import it. I am going to go to the list menu and say import. We don't need a template because he's already got the information in Excel. And I'll go to my demo folder and grab the safety issues Luke had mailed me last night. I upload that. It ingests it. I don't need to do a whole bunch of scripting and mapping and whatnot to make this work. Let's take a look at the preview information. It says, hey, by the way, there's one record in there that I couldn't match a choice list for. You have one in here that has a category size of medium. We didn't have medium in our choice list. It says, what do you want to do about that? I'm going to say, ignore it. I'll fix it in post. So it brings in the records. I tried to match it, but obviously it didn't work on all categories. We should see one in here with an empty record. There it is, the one that's missing. And already I am way, way ahead of where I would be with Excel. Of course, with Excel, I could turn on some filters and sort. I can also do that in ServiceNow very easily. Let me go back to the entire list and say, show me all of the ones that are assigned to Luke. So show matching. I just right click on that field and say show matching, and let's take out the low priorities and say filter out. I wish more list applications had those two features, and it's modifying these filters up here so that I can modify them even further, save them if I wish, bring them over here. I can even drag this over and become a shortcut in my favorites list so I can see that. Very easy. Lots of things way above and beyond what we ever got out of Excel. I've also got the ability to group these in the list and see some inline analytics. Very cool. I like that. Let's ungroup that. And one of my favorites is the visual task boards, where I can take these in a Kanban style and arrange them without even having to open the record. I say, you know what, this really belongs in Jim's queue. I'm assigning that to Jim, as does this one, and bada boom, bada bing, we're all done. So that's some of the fun I get out of that. Let's go back to the issue list because I've got some more development to do. I imported this. Where am I on the map? Security. I've created a role. Actually, Studio did this for me, called Safety to User. And that's going to allow users to use the application, but I need another role for the department. So just like that, I can create a new role. I can take those roles and apply them to the groups that they relate to so that the people in those groups have the right roles. Let's take a look at the safety department and apply that role. I take the safety to department, and I can even apply multiple roles to the same group so that all the people in that group inherit that role. This is best practice for users and group management, by the way. Apply roles to groups and add group members. That way, when somebody leaves a team, they lose their role to that application. I will take the safety to user and apply to the safety users. And in there, I have a couple of people, namely our brewmaster, Margot, and Sam Adams, which is the code name for our integration account. Hopefully we'll have time to get to that so I can show you how Sam Adams can integrate with from a third-party application. There, I've done security. Ooh, that was hard. And I will show you how that manifests in just a little bit. Back to our map. Simplifying the input. So when I get to, say, Margot, and she wants to input a new safety issue, I really don't want her or need her to look at one of these forms and go, well, wait, what state should I put it in? Is it a project? She just needs to know some basic information. So what I'm going to do is expose a quick entry form for her on the service catalog. And then when she's out and about with her mobile phone, she can submit safety issues. And I can do that down here on the table in Studio. There's a link that says add this to the service catalog. In just a few minutes, here, report a safety issue. This is how it's going to appear in the catalog. See something, report something. And put that in a category, helpful category that we can put in the catalog. All I need to know is it big or small? When do you need it due by? Where is it? And tell me a little bit about the issue. I will save that, and it goes and creates this record producer for me. All the variables and all the technical stuff behind it. Again, very quick to create this. Now, first thing I need to do is make sure that we can use this with our mobile users. So I switch that to desktop and mobile. Don't want to exclude them. They're my target audience. We want this to be easy while people are out and about with their mobile phones. And the other thing I absolutely love, I fell in love with this when I was a customer, seeing my very first ServiceNow demo when I saw a record producer. You don't have to ask terse field labels like this. Location. Okay, I can make more human readable questions for this form. Where did you witness this? Okay, or how big of an issue is this? I can make this a more user-friendly form. And that's about it. That's all I need to do to get Margot up and running in the catalog. And I am going to flip over to two things. One, my safety issue list here, because I want you to keep an eye on that list as we're going through this. And I have a live demo of Margot logged into her mobile phone over here. Scroll down, scroll up, and she says, oh, I heard there's a new safety issue thing online. She's walking around the brewery and noticed that there's some mysterious fluid underneath tank 1. Okay, and she says, I don't remember where it was, but she can certainly look for it and looks for the word safety. Hey, look, it finds it. Report a safety issue. Pull that up. And she says, this is a big issue. We don't need strange things on the floor. I think it's water. But we'll just say it's water for now, just so it doesn't frighten anybody. And we should have this resolved, no later than tomorrow. It could affect the batch that we're brewing. Where did you witness this? This is in our Maryland brewery. And a short description, can even use her voice to record this. There's water on the floor under tank 2. Fix that, real quick. It doesn't say 2, it should say 2. So we can fix that. And because it's on the mobile, we can add an attachment. We'll take a picture with our phone of this egregious safety error of water on the floor. There it is. Oh, why there's carpeting in the brewery floor, I don't know. But pretend along with me. Now keep an eye on, for sake of bandwidth, we'll use a small picture here. When I submit this, I must use my fingers on my laptop screen to scroll that. When I submit this, the latest issue right now is Safety 1027. I can submit that right here and boom, instantly it's available for the safety team to go get. And of course, Luke or anyone else can go get that. Now I am logged in here as, wrong screen, Luke. Someone shifted those around right before the demo. I am logged in here as Luke. Luke has access now, since I gave him the role, to go and get the safety application. Sure enough, there's his safety issue application. I'm going to favorite that because Luke is the safety manager. He goes in here all the time, brings up a list of safety issues, and he can start processing number, what was it, 30? The latest and greatest, or he can look at it in his Kanban style as he goes through. So sort, I am clicking. I'm having a trackpad deficiency today, but he can go and look at all these and start working on them immediately. Very easy to do. All right, I gotta get moving because that was a lot of stuff just for the initial setup. We have an application; it's up and running. I'm going to take you to the process flow at this point. Luke says, yes, we just got a new requirement. This happens all the time in business. Requirements change. And Luke tells me, we need to have an approval by the inspector. So let's take this and assign it to Carol. Carol is going to be our inspector on that. We'll save that. Assign to is irrelevant for the moment. He says, I need to build an approval process. We can do that now very easily with no code with Flow Designer. And Flow Designer is new in Kingston, as Martin mentioned, and allows me to do very little work to put this together. In fact, it's going to sound like I'm almost doing speech to text on this. Safety approval. I give the flow a name, submit that. And it says, congratulations, you now have a flow. I define a trigger. When would you like this process to begin? Anytime one of these safety records is updated. Well, what table do you want? I want the safety issue table. And when the record changes to the state, remember our approval? When we change it to approval, I want this to trigger every time because it could go back and forth a few times. Maybe the approval is done, maybe it's not really done. What do you want to happen when that actually takes off? So, well, first, I want to ask for an approval. Gives me this approval widget and says, what would you like to approve? I drag the original record out here. I want to approve that thing. It fills in the table for me, which is very nice. And I say, approve when anyone approves. Well, who is the approver? Is it a group? Is it a user? Is it, well, according to our requirements, it's the inspector. So I can take the value of the inspector field, or I could hard code in there if it's the same person every time, which I don't recommend, and say that it's the inspector. Apologize for the wrap. It's because I've got my font really large so you can see it. That's it. I've just asked for an approval. Now, if I go to the flow logic, if I've got a new activity down here that says the approval state is approved. Told you, it sounds like I'm just reading the instructions. If that happens, I've got a new branch on this. I could say update the issue record, drag that from there, and set the state to close complete. It's been inspected, it's been approved, it's good to go. And I'll also, just for sake of argument, say approval is approved. And what if it is not approved? Well, then I come to the flow logic and I've got an else. And I can say anything else that's not approved, I like the else, there's nothing to really configure on that. Anything else that's not approved is going to be updated as same record. Get your trigger record in there and set the state to back to work in progress. We're going to go backwards in this process a little bit and change the approval back to not yet requested. Easy to do. That's it. I save that, and don't forget to activate it so everybody has it available and it triggers when it's supposed to. You can always save, but if you don't activate, they don't go anywhere. I've just done my workflow piece. Easy as that. Now, the cool thing about this and many other things is if I were doing this in a corporate environment outside of this partner scenario, I could use delegated development and say, hey, Luke, you know the process, you go build this out. He's like, great, I can do some dragging and dropping. I do that in Visio, so why couldn't I do that in ServiceNow? Let's take one of these safety issues and move it along. We'll take number 27. We need to do one other thing before I do this. I want a list of approvers down here so that I can see the evidence. And I go to configure related lists on the form, and for whatever reason, it says this is in global, which it wasn't at that moment. And I add the approvers list to the form. And here are the approvers. There's nobody in there, but as soon as I say, congratulations, we're moving this to approval, the inspector is Carol. We should see Carol show up in the approver list in just a second. Give that a second or two. Happens in the background. I'm impatient, so I'll say reload form. And there's Carol. She is the approver. It's moved into that ask for approval state, and it's waiting here. And I'm going to go back to my Carol screen, log in as Carol. And she doesn't even have to go to the safety app. She can go to my approvals, if I can spell it right under self-service, and see she's got a safety issue to approve and says, here's the summary of what's happening and where it's happened. Currently, the volupat solicidutum something or other says, I approve. She knows Latin much better than me. And when we do that, automatically, our form will update because Flow Designer is going to do that. If you didn't notice, state and active are here, and it will tell you the system has modified this field value and changed it from active because closed is no longer active, and that's a good thing. So we've moved that along down the road. I kind of freaked out on the time a little bit ago, and I forgot that my mobile display always shows the same time when you're doing this crazy thing. So apologize for that. I'm not as fearful for the time as I had. Next, we want to make this interdepartment ready. ServiceNow is a single platform, and occasionally the safety team gets issues and says, you know what? Someone reported a loose network cable. That's not really for us. That's for the network team, and I need to reassign these to IT very, very quickly. Can you help me out with that? Because I don't want to go in and create a new incident. I need these things linked together, blah, blah, blah. Typical scenario. It's a single system of record. There's no swivel seat going on here. We're all on ServiceNow. We've all got a single database to share. And I said, yes. Luke, how would you like that manifested on the forum? Apologize, I didn't mean to switch away. He said, put a big red button on it that says send to IT. I said, well, I can do that. That's easy. We call those UI actions. So I'm going to go under Studio again and create a new UI action and call it send to IT. That's what's going to show up. I tell it what records I want to place this on, and tell it the safety issue table. Tell it it's going to be a button, and it's going to be the destructive style, which is manifested as a red color. Now in here, to save you the pain and suffering of watching me type, I have the code already canned for you. And what I'm going to do is call a library function called a script include, and a specific function or method of that, and say, okay, I'm going to create an incident for that. And I also want to highlight something I'm doing here. This inner function call here is going to present a message on the screen. But to make sure I'm future-proofing this, because I'm giving this to a lot of customers, I don't know what language they're putting this in. And if I just say incident created, that might not work with my German friends or my French customers or Chinese. So I am going to remember to take that and build a message. Now I can do a translation table from the message table and say, anytime you see that, replace it with safety issue has created incident, and I passed a parameter. So let's pass that. Now my translation is all ready to go. The only piece left is really this library of stuff, which we call a script include. Again, to save you the pain and suffering of watching me type, I'm going to get it all out here. It's a whole whopping 48 lines of code, including lots of commentary, but it's really just two functions. One to create the incident, which we use Glide Record, our API for interacting with the database. I say I want to insert a new record with certain properties, and one to make the response. So I send a JSON payload back so that I can get the right information. I save that. I also want to save my UI action, my button on the form, reload this form. I know this one's already close complete. Let's go to a different one, but there's my big red button. And when I click it, we now have interdepartmental communications. These messages appear once saying, hey, your application is talking to my application. That's cool. We have ability to do that. And it takes me to that incident. So if whoever clicked that red button wants to modify the incident further, but it carried over the short description, added safety in here so the IT team knows, oh, this came from the safety team. You put in whatever you like. Also brought over the caller, who was the person who opened the safety issue. So I've got lots of transferable information I can do between these two, making it very easy to bring this back and forth. So Luke's next request is, I'd like a report. Where are these happening? Well, Luke, I got you covered there. I got something I think you're really going to like. Let's go and create a new report for Luke in Studio. And just so I can see a little bit more, I'm going to squish that to the side and call this Safety Issues by Location. Yeah, I keep forgetting to check the map. Where are we? Did we miss anything? I did. Oh, I forgot notifications. We'll come back to that in just a bit. Safety issues by location. I just get so excited about building this stuff. It happens so fast. And this time I'm going to report on the task table because the task table allows me to create a map by location. Don't quite get that. It's not one of the things I get with task, but I do have the ability to say, only show me the active issues from the task type of issue. That's my safety issues table. And when I save that, I get this really cool map report. He says, well, that's really interesting. I've got 14 in the US and a couple in Europe. They're expanding their business. 14 issues in the US. Where are they happening? 4 in Texas, 3 in Colorado. Let's take that Colorado and I can drill into the state, drill into the city, and actually see the data that's behind there. Way better than exporting it to something else. I now have visibility into the actual data that's underlying all these records. So stop exporting stuff into spreadsheets and making it stale and inactive. I did forget the notification, and I apologize about that. When Margot submitted that request, she said, that's all terrific and everything, but the message on the screen is gone. I don't remember my issue number anymore. Can you send me an email letting me know where it went and why it happened, and so I can go back and click it and check the updates, all that kind of stuff. So again, under Studio, this will take me all of about 60 seconds to say, I'm going to give a new notification for new safety issue. Watch the records on the issue table. Make sure I get the right one. And I'm going to, anytime a new record is inserted, that's the only condition I really need, I'm going to send a message to whomever opened it. Sometimes opened is at the top. I haven't quite figured that one out, but not this time, of course. Whoever opened it gets the email, and what it will contain, well, we can put whatever we want in this email message. Thank you for being safe at work. Okay, and put some details in here. And if I don't know the exact details, I can always go over to the field chooser on the right and say, let's give them the number. And it says, oh, number is presented as this $ curly brace notation. That must mean short description is probably the same field name. Now, the label may not always agree with the field name, so be careful. And I can put a link to it. Click here to get to your issue. And I put in a little meta character URI. And what's neat about this is I can even test it with the preview notification. It grabs a sample record of Safety 101, which went to Fred Luddy. Says, yep, I'll send that to Fred. Here's the subject. Thank you for being at work, with a sample content from that exact record. I could change the record, see different content, but I know it's working even without even having to send mail. I know that, oh, okay, let's add another field in here, or let's change the order of that. Very, very easy to do with the notifications. All right, just so I don't get derailed again, let's take a look at the reference qualifier. And I want to leave Martin enough time to do our closeout. So Luke, who was, pardon the screen switching, Luke was over here and he noticed there's a bit of a problem. That new issue that Margot brought in, we're getting around to that since it was only a P4 and not due till tomorrow. Luke's browser is running a little slowly today. Gives me a chance to take another sip of tea, and I probably clicked that twice. Yes, there's a latency going on here. Click once, then open the issue. Okay. I'm as fallible as anyone else. If something doesn't happen, I'll try clicking again. He says there's an issue. When I click assign to, all I get is IT people. Well, these aren't my employees. How do I get those people to show the right people in here? I've got no assignment group field. So, well, I could fix that real fast. Let's go back to my screen, and underneath, I told you we inherited stuff from task. Well, one of the things we inherited was this assign to field, and the assign to field has with it a pre-built-in filter because ServiceNow started in the IT space. Those are the applications we created first, and we may run into an occasional, hey, look, it says roles is ITIL. Well, that's not what I need, and I shouldn't even, that should not be editable. I don't know why it thinks it is. I shouldn't be able to edit the task while I'm in the safety application. Let me just refresh that. There we go. It's read-only. Didn't want to do this incorrectly, but it says the roles is ITIL. It's doing a filter for me on all the users in the user table. These are the ones it's going to present. Doesn't do me any good. I have the capability of using a dictionary override to supersede the functionality on that. And I can say, don't use the ITIL role, use my role. What was the name of that role? I really don't remember. We can go back here and say, bring up the access control roles. That's it. And this is why I love Studio, because I can do multiple things at the same time. Copy a value from there and place it in there. And that is done. Now, the task form still behaves like the task form should. It's going to show IT people, but when I get to a safety issue, it's going to behave differently because this rule applies to the safety people, and here is Luke and his team. I can now assign that to Jim and save it very easily. I haven't done any code really except for that UI action, which is pretty simplistic. Last thing I want to show you is how to get this exposed on the service portal. There's a big push at Halo Corp for safety, and they have a beautiful service portal. I'm going to look at their service portal and bring that up just to show you what it currently looks like today. And the VP says, we need a button somewhere on here that says report a safety issue. People aren't finding it by going into order something and can we help you or searching for it. Make it obvious. This is our big thing for 2018 is to make this safety. So I will use the service portal configuration. And by using the designer, open up that main page, which is called index, the service portal index page, and I get a drag and drop UI where I can start placing things. I did make one mistake before I did that. I apologize. Service portal doesn't belong to any specific application. I need to set the global application as my space. That's where it lives, because otherwise I wouldn't be able to edit anything. And I suspect Josh was just waiting on the other end going, you forgot to change scope. So let's go back into the designer. Oh, index is the page I was on. And now I can put a link button. Let's put it somewhere here on the left-hand side, more or less there. And there's my widget. I use the pencil to tell it 3 things. What color do you want? Well, safety, red, yellow, green. Let's make it green. And I need a link for that. What is the URL that I am going to use to create that? Don't know. Good question. I need that record producer. So let's bring the record producer back up. That was over in Studio. That's my report. I have a I don't even remember where it was. So I can type in record producer in my that's my code search. I need my go-to search, record producer. There it is. If you don't know where anything is, you can always search for it easily. It says, here it is. It was the first tab I had open. And in there, I have the ability to preview the item. And what I really want is this part of the URL that says, you know what? I don't like that way. It's too hard to copy that thing. Let's go to the record producer itself. There's a try it button. I just need the link of what to put in there. So when that comes up, safety in the name, there's report a safety issue. And I can say, where's my try it? Better yet. Martin's probably going, come on, Chuck, get on with it. My developer is slowing down. I want to go to the service catalog because whatever appears there is what I want to show. Can we help you? Report a safety issue. And here is where my URL is, only it's encoded. So I'm going to get this part and this part all the way through to that part. Place it in a text editor so that I can see it a little bit better and fix these things. Fear not, this only takes a second. And it's, I know that should have been a question mark. There are other ways to get here. Apologize if this looks a little wonky. 3D is equals, oops, I didn't get that quite right, equals 1, and this equals that, and that's what I need. There's my URL. This is either going to succeed spectacularly or fail spectacularly. Go back to my designer, and I had this up here waiting for this link. That's the link, and the contents will say, create safety issue. Now, when I save that, I now have a green button that says create safety issue. Let's go test it. I had my service portal open. I refresh my service portal page and create safety issue. There's my button. Woohoo! I can now create a new safety issue. Small, pick the date, and away we go. Now, if this isn't exactly what you were looking for, and you want to go deeper into Service Portal, you can go to the widget editor and create your own widgets where you put in the HTML and the CSS and the JavaScript to make this all happen using industry standard AngularJS and ServiceNow JavaScript. It's pretty straightforward. If you've got those skills in-house or you'd like to develop them, very easy to do and very powerful as well. So I don't want to get into that. We've only got a couple minutes left. The last thing I want to do, though, is make sure that I am a good developer and tell Studio that I want to save this. I want to save this off to source control. I want to use some version management so that when somebody discovers something in production that may affect my development cycle, I can switch between the versions on my development instance or begin patching things that have already been released. I bring up the link to source control and I need the URL. Now, previously, I had gone into GitHub and created a repository for the Orbit Corp GitHub repo. And that's all I do. I just create a new project. It's an empty box that I can then fill up as I need. And I give my credentials, Orbit Corp, and password. Link that to source control. It pushes a copy of this entire application, everything that I've developed for it, the report, the form, the table, the ACLs, all of that is going out there. And should I need to, I could even switch instances and import it that way. So very, very powerful. The final step the final step that I have is to publish this to the store. I'm going to upload it to the store from Studio. I go to publish and say, here we go to the store. I give it my vendor credentials because I am a certified partner. The submit button is just off the screen because my font is so big. I'll make it a little smaller. Click submit. It's going to upload that to you, at which point I'm going to turn it back over to Martin to explain what happens on the back end to get this actually in the store.
All right. Can you hear me, Chuck?
Success. Yes.
Okay. Yeah, so what this does, what Chuck just did is he has submitted the application for certification. Certification consists of two pieces: technical, which is we have a dedicated team at ServiceNow that closely inspects and runs every application that goes onto our store through a comprehensive set of tests to ensure platform compatibility, performance, security, integration best practices, and so forth, to ensure that customers can install the applications from partners on their instances with the utmost confidence. So that's the first piece of the cert process. And the second piece is the marketing review. So we have a marketing team that looks at all of the media, the marketing assets like icons and so forth, the descriptions, the taglines, et cetera, to ensure that our customers have a great experience on our store. And for you, that means that we ensure that we have done everything we can to maximize conversion rates for visitors to the store in terms of lead gen for your app. So that is kind of a, through the magic of the internet, it's sort of the put the cake in the oven, and we won't make you watch the cake bake, but we'll show you the cake coming out of the oven. This is the cake coming out of the oven. And so when it's completed, the technical and marketing review certification processes, you are given the authority to click publish via the publisher portal, and it is immediately published to the store and accessible by every single ServiceNow customer in the world. So you can see the safety first app that Chuck just built. If we click on it, we go to that application detail page, and we will show you all the marketing stuff that I just referred to. So the app icon, we enable you to provide screenshots from the process owner, the end user, the admin perspective, to give prospects an idea of what your app looks like. You can upload explainer videos. You can link to pretty much anything you want to, as long as it's relevant and helpful to a prospect or customer. We give you the ability to have a tagline. In this case, I chose nip safety issues in the bud, and all of that sort of thing. The description, which is your value prop, the key features that really deliver on that value, and other information about your app. Importantly, we enable you to offer free trials, and you can optionally choose to approve or not require approval for trials. And that enables customers to install your app on their sub-production instances only. So it's contained within sub-prod, and they can then take your app for a test drive. Which is a very powerful conversion tool. They can contact you. They can look at your company profile. Why don't you click on View Profile, Chuck, to show them what the Orbit Corp profile looks like. So we have this ultra cool Orbit icon, and you can have an app description with all of your information, and then all of your apps are shown in one place. So that gives customers a way to see everything that you've published to the store. So if we just go back real quick to the detail page. The last thing was that, this is a lucrative app. So this is a high value application, and we have priced it at $25,000 per month. So, and we've also put it into the governance, risk and compliance, and facility service management category. So it's very targeted, very clear what this is, who is it for, and what does it do for me as a potential customer. So that's your listing. Anybody with high credentials can actually procure the app. And we actually have a enhancement coming out in the next week or so that's going to enable non-high users to get connected with their ServiceNow admin so they can get that app installed.
Martin, I think the first time I make my first 25K from that app that I made in under an hour, I'm going to be doing the safety dance.
Absolutely, Chuck. And you know, wouldn't it be fun if we could play that video, but we've kind of covered that before and we decided we can't. But yes, we will definitely be doing the safety dance when that is purchased. There's no question about it.
Watch for that video.
Okay, let's go to the last slide. Which is just sort of, okay, what now? What do you want us to do now kind of thing, right? What's next? What do I do? First and foremost, enter today. So, you know, we walked you through the entry process and where to go. Again, you don't have to do everything at once. You can do it in chunks, and but it's important to do that sooner rather than later so that you get on our radar and we can see that you've entered and kind of what your app description is, and maybe, you know, see if we can help you in any way. So that's first and foremost. You can also watch the 2017 finale at Knowledge 17 through that link there. And that link is also at the bottom of the ServiceNow.com CreatorCon challenge page. So you can see the 3 winners pitch. You can see what winning looks like and maybe get some lessons from that. And then lastly, on the right-hand side, we have a short testimonial from second place winner last year, Clear Sky, who's a very early stage startup, 3 guys that are super smart on ServiceNow, and they talk about what it has meant for them and their company to have won second place. So that's it. I think we can, you know, if there are any questions, I think it's top of the hour, but you know, if there are any questions, we'd be happy to take those, and we thank you very much for your time today. We hope you enter the challenge.
Just as an FYI, I have talked to TJ from Clear Sky since last year a couple of times, and he is busy beyond belief. So there's an indicator of how well this is working for him.
Yeah, and they've also landed 2 customers. So that's great to see. Absolutely.
All right. Thank you very much.